let's move on to the last team in the NFC West, the team that did the worst, and that was the Arizona Cardinals. They went 4-13 last year. Definitely did not meet expectations, and because so, they let go of Cliff Kingsbury, their former head coach, and then also let go of DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. They did bring in Robbie Anderson last season, but they let him walk. Let go of a bunch of offensive linemen, guard Cody Ford, guard Billy Price, Justin Pugh, and then Rodney Hudson as well. He left their center. And then on defense, lost edge rusher Marcus Golden, and I also forgot to add, but also lost Zach Allen as well, who was doing pretty well for them. And then obviously also J.J. Watt retired as well. So lost a lot of pieces there. Don't forget Kyler coming back off. It was ACL injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so coming off an ACL injury, who knows if he'll even be ready for the start of the season or if they take their time with him. But they did get head coach Jonathan Gannon. He was the Eagles defensive coordinator. Brought in a few pieces in wide receiver Zach Pascal, also from the Eagles, and linebacker Kazir White. And then he was from the Chargers. And then defensive end LJ Collier. They also brought him in and former first-round pick, so maybe they're trying to get what they can out of him. And then draft-wise, remember they traded back from 3 with the Texans. And then at pick 6, they went and got offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. And apparently Kyler really wanted him. So we'll see how that works out. But good pick there. And then in the second round, grabbed edge rusher BJ Ojulari out of LSU at pick 41. And then in the third round, they grabbed cornerback Garrett Williams from Syracuse. And also wide receiver Michael Wilson from Stanford. So Cardinals seem to be transitioning, so I don't expect it. Personally, I don't have their expectations high, but what are your thoughts on the Cardinals and this turnover from the Cliff Kingsbury era?
I'm going to keep it short and simple. I have very low expectations for the Cardinals. I think that I wasn't really a big fan of the management of the Cardinals the last handful of years. If anybody's watched our podcast or listened for very long, and we've ever talked about the Cardinals in the past, I was not a fan of Cliff Kingsbury. I also wasn't a big fan of some of the moves that I've seen, just kind of reflecting based on what their GM was doing. Just a lot of misses in the draft that, you invest high draft capital and, it just doesn't fully pan out all the time. And so I don't know. I just feel like this is kind of a rebuilding year for the Cardinals. I think they know it. I expect them to play it slow with Kyler's injury. He's already talking about being ready for week 1. Quite frankly, I don't expect him to play week 1. I don't think the Cardinals have any reason to throw him out there for week 1. I think the Texans trade was somewhat of a no-brainer anyway because, they traded back to, was it 12? And then they eventually traded back up to 6 to get Paris Johnson, but they traded back to 12. And then you get the Texans first next year, and the Texans aren't going to be very good, assuming. So I think that was a no-brainer anyway, but I also think it was done because you're trying. I think the Cardinals, it's like an indicator, right? Of the Cardinals kind of know the situation they're in. If this was a win now year, maybe you go out and instead of, trying to get some future assets, you take Will Anderson if you thought that he was the best available player. But because they kind of know where they're at, they would much prefer to get Paris Johnson some picks for next year and keep rebuilding quickly. So, yeah, I don't have very high expectations with the Cardinals. I fully expect them to be the worst team in this division. I could be wrong. It could be the Niners because, quite frankly, I don't think that either roster has a ton of talent left. So I don't know. Not the Niners. Sorry, the Rams. The Niners have a lot of talent. Sorry, the Rams do not have a lot of talent. But I quite frankly, I don't know. I think that the McVay and assuming Stafford, Donald, and Kupp are all healthy, I assume that kind of top-heavy quartet can make things happen to where with a rookie head coach, Kyler's health in question, all these kind of things. I just don't really know if this is going to be the Cardinals' year. And that's okay, Kyler's still young, so you gave him the big contract. You want to try and rebuild around him as quickly as you possibly can under this new regime. So them sucking this year is not necessarily the worst thing because you get this upcoming year's draft picks. You get the Texans draft pick. You can add a couple studs and see where you are next year.
Yeah, and getting out of obviously J.J. Watt retiring, so getting out a couple other big contracts. DeAndre Hopkins being one of them too. I'm with you. I think this is obviously a rebuild year. I hope they take it slow with Kyler as well. Just for personal health and just keep your franchise guy healthy. You don't want things to get worse, but it does help that they finally went round one, got him a tackle. I know technically the year before they traded for Hollywood Brown with the first round pick, but you can probably go back to that video. Even then, if I remember correctly, I wasn't a huge fan of that trade, or really, Hollywood Brown. I wasn't sure if he was, because he went for basically the same price as AJ Brown did. I think they both need an extension, but obviously I think we saw AJ Brown better than Hollywood Brown. And granted, we'll see what the Cardinals do. But yeah, long story short, I'm with you. I think that they need more talent, like across the board. It's not like the Rams where at least they were top heavy. Like even though the Cardinals were quote unquote top heavy, it was really like, man, like DeAndre Hopkins at the end of his career. And then Kyler still wasn't, he's very good, very intriguing, but you still can't say for sure that, you can't lock him in as opposed to like a Matthew Stafford, where you're pretty much going to get every week in and week out. And been in the league for a couple of years. And then, obviously defensive side of the ball, they, like you mentioned with those draft picks, Zaven Collins, he still really hasn't come along yet. So hopefully he does. And then why am I blanking on the previous first rounder out of Clemson?
Isaiah. I'm blanking on his last name.
I know it's Isaiah, but I'm like, I don't know. But obviously he's a guy that like they still really haven't. I think they played him more at safety last year. We'll see. And then don't forget too, like Budda Baker wanted out too. They restructured his contract, gave him more money. So maybe that'll quench or
Simmons.
Spell that Isaiah Simmons. Why do we? But yeah, Isaiah Simmons, like they still are trying to figuring out how to utilize him.
Take this with a grain of salt because this is the ESPN depth chart, but it has him listed as a cornerback right now, as the backup to Marco Wilson for right cornerback. That could just be because when they played him at safety, they put him a lot in the box, so that would count him maybe as the nickel corner. Yeah. But he is listed as the backup right cornerback.
So yeah, we'll have to see what they do with him. Obviously, Gannon coming from the Eagles, so possible different ideology schemes. Maybe he'll figure out something to do. But yeah, I'm with you. I expect Cardinals to do poor. They're probably going to be the team that everyone's going to be, they're probably going to be the defense that like everyone's going to be trying to play their team against, or maybe you play your second or third wide receiver in fantasy just because they're playing the Cardinals. You may get a touchdown just because they stink. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm even more sold that I'm pretty sure the Cardinals will be at the bottom of this division. So
the only reason I say they might not be is like if Stafford goes down again, right? Like the Niners, they got nothing over there, at least without Kyler.
Rams.
So why do I keep saying the Niners, bro? What am I doing? The Rams.
Okay.
If Stafford gets hurt, then the Rams got nothing. Where like at least the Cardinals, like I feel more confident with a receiving core that they have. Zach Ertz, the offensive line I think is better than the Rams. Like the defense is still pretty pitiful, but like even like Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Rashad Fenton had like a good year with the Chiefs. Kazir White has been like a decent linebacker for most of his time. Also, they have Zaven Collins here listed as a defensive end now, man. These guys they're moving people around, assuming this is an accurate depth chart. But I don't know. Like at least this team, I feel somewhat more confident in the general talent the team has. But I don't know. It's to me, it's between the Rams and Cardinals.
Yeah. So basically, point, we're not buying any of the Cardinals stuff. Like if you're one of those people that are putting like like I'm sure their title odds are very low, but for some reason you're going crazy, you're putting money on the Cardinals, best of luck to you.
I mean, hey, we talked about Seattle like this last year and they proved us wrong. Now they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but I bet somebody out there bet on them to make the playoffs and probably made a good